Welcome back to Mr. Scott Maths. In this video, we're going to look at solving quadratic equations by using the quadratic formula. Though if there are any other topics you'd like me to cover, just leave a comment down below and I'll get to that video as soon as I can. So in this video, we're looking at solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. Well, first of all, we need a quadratic equation. So our quadratic equations are going to be in this form. So we're going to have, first of all, ax squared. Now what this means is that we've got our x squared, so we're going to be solving for x, and this a is just any number that could be out the front. So it could be a 3x squared, a 4x squared, a 2x squared, could even be a 1x squared, so we just write that as x squared. Then we're going to have plus bx, where again b is just going to be a number, and then we've got our x, and finally it'd be plus c, where again c is just another number, and it equals to 0. So that's going to be our form of one of our quadratic equations. Now we're going to need our quadratic formula to solve it. So our quadratic formula is going to be that x, the number that we're trying to solve for, is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that's all going to be over 2a. So we're going to take these three numbers that are in our quadratic equation, and then we're going to put them into this formula here. And you'll notice that we've got a plus or minus. Well, that's going to be because we're going to get two different answers for our x. So we're going to get two values of x, one where we add on this square to b squared minus 4ac, and one where we subtract it. So let's take a look at an example. So in this example, we have x squared plus 6x plus 8 equals 0. So we need to figure out what our a, our b, and our c are. Well, in this one, our a is going to be 1, because we don't have a number out in front of our x squared. It just means 1x squared. Our b will be 6 from here. And then our c from here will be 8. So putting these into our formula, well, we're going to have x equals, first of all, minus b, so that's minus 6. Then plus or minus the square root of b squared, well, that's 6 squared, minus 4. And then it's ac, so that's times by a, which is times by 1. And then times by c, which is 8. And that's all going to be over 2a. Well, a is 1, so it will all be over 2 times 1. Okay, let's calculate some more of this then. So this minus 6 stays where it is. Plus or minus, well, 6 squared is 36. And then 4 times 1 times 8, well, that will be 32. So 36 subtract 32, and 2 times 1, of course, just gives us 2. Okay, let's do a little bit more. So minus 6 just stays as it is. 36 minus 32 gives us 4. And then all over 2. Well, square root of 4 is just going to be 2. So we could have minus 6 plus or minus 2 over 2. So now if we look at our two possible answers for x, if we first of all look at the one where we take this plus, so x will be equal to minus 6 plus 2 over 2, which is equal to minus 4 over 2, which is minus 2. And then we've got our second one where we take this negative. So we've got x is equal to minus 6 minus 2 over 2, which is going to be minus 8 over 2. And that's going to give us an answer of minus 4. Okay, so our two possible answers for x here be x equals minus 2 and x equals minus 4. Now, you may have thought, well, for this question, actually, we could have just factorised that, and then that would have given us our answer a little bit easier than going through all of the formula. And yeah, you're right, we could have factorised it. But what we'll look at in a minute are some examples where we can't factorise our quadratic equation and where our formula would be a lot more useful. So in this next example, we have x squared plus 5x plus 1 equals 0. And again, we want to find our a, our b, and our c. So if a will be 1, b will be 5, and c will be 1. So we need to put these into our formula. So x equals minus b, so minus 5, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 5 squared, minus 4 times a times c. And that's all going to be over 2a, 2 times 1. Okay, now we've got this minus 5 still there, plus or minus. Well, 5 squared, that will give us 25. And 4 times 1 times 1 is just going to give us 4. So it'll be 25, subtract 4, and that will give us 21. And then 2 times 1, that just gives us 2. Well, we can't do any more with the square root of 21. It doesn't work out nicely like our previous question did. So what we can do is say our first solution for x would be minus 5 plus the square root of 21 over 2. And our second solution would be x equals minus 5 minus the square root of 21 over 2. And now if we were asked to in the question, we could leave these as decimal answers by using a calculator. So let's say if we were asked to 2 decimal places, what we can do is say with this first one, we'll put it into our calculator. So we need to have minus 5 plus the square root of 21 all over 2. And then to 2 decimal places, that will give us an answer of minus 0.21. And that's the 2 decimal places. And then we can do the same for our second solution. So this time it'd be minus 5 minus the square root of 21 all over 2. And this time we get to 2 decimal places, 4.79 or minus 4.79. And again, that is to 2dp. So in this example, our formula is a lot more useful. We couldn't have just factorized that nicely like we did previously. And then our 2 answers that we get, we could have minus 5 plus the square root of 21 over 2. That would be perhaps a more accurate answer. But in a question, we might be asked to give it to 2 decimal places or 3 decimal places. We've gone for 2 in this occasion. And we get minus 0.21. And then our other solution, minus 5 minus the square root of 21 all over 2, which would be to 2 decimal places, minus 4.79. Okay, one more example then. In this equation, we have 2x squared plus 7x plus 2 equals 0. And again, we want our a, our b, and our c. So a is going to be 2, b is 7, and c again is 2. So we want to put this into our formula. So x is going to be equal to minus 7 plus or minus the square root of 7 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, and times c, which is also 2. And that's all going to be over 2a, or 2 times 2. So let's calculate what we've got in here. So first of all, we'll have this minus 7 plus or minus the square root. Well, 7 squared is 49, and we're subtracting 4 times 2 times 2, which is 16. So 49 take away 16 will give us 33. And on the bottom, 2 times 2 gives us 4. So our 2 solutions this time, because again, we can't do anything with the square root of 33. Our 2 solutions, x is equal to minus 7 plus the square root of 33 all over 4. And our second solution, x is equal to minus 7 minus the square root of 33 all over 4. And again, if we want to work these out to 2 decimal places, we can use a calculator. So for our first solution, if we put in minus 7 plus the square root of 33 all over 4. We get an answer of minus 0.31. And that, of course, is to 2 decimal places. And then if we looked at our second solution, we'd have minus 7 minus the square root of 33 all over 4. And that would give us minus 3.19. And that is to 2 decimal places. Now here's a question for you to have a go at. In this question we have x squared plus 3x minus 5 equals 0. Can we find our 2 solutions for x? If you just want to pause the video for a moment and I'll go through it in just a second. So in this question we've got to again find our a, our b and our c. So a will be 1, b will be 3 and c will be minus 5. And we've got to then put this into our formula. So x is going to be equal to minus 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times minus 5. And that's all going to be over 2a, 2 times 1. Now if we work some of this out, well, we've still got this minus 3 plus or minus the square root of, well, 3 squared is 9. And we've got minus 4 times 1 times minus 5. But this times 1's not going to do an awful lot. So really, we've got minus 4 times minus 5. Now, if we've got a negative times a negative, that will give us a positive. So that will give us positive 20. So we'll have 9, add 20, which will give us 29. And of course, 2 times 1 just gives us 2. So our 2 solutions then will be, first of all, x equals minus 3 plus the square root of 29 over 2. And our second one, x equals minus 3 minus the square root of 29 all over 2. And now if we wanted to find these to 2 decimal places, we can put them into our calculator. So for the first one, we've got in our calculator minus 3 plus the square root of 29 all over 2. And that will give us 1.19 to 2 decimal places. And then for our second solution, x equals minus 3 minus 29 over 2. Again, put that into a calculator. So minus 3 minus square root of 29 all over 2. That gives us an answer of minus 4.19 to 2 decimal places. So x equals minus 4.19 to 2 decimal places. So the 2 answers we should have got if we were doing it to 2 decimal places, 1.19 and minus 4.19. Make sure to like and subscribe for more maths videos.